view, because it is a very generic, vague term, right? And my view of what an entrepreneur is somebody who actually actively solves problems. And that doesn't mean that you are the boss, right? It could be that. It doesn't mean that you start a business, you incorporate a legal entity called the Sendirian Berhad. It doesn't matter. In fact, that just makes you someone who has a company. An entrepreneur is someone who solves problems. So all of you should be entrepreneurs. Um, and if you go into a certain line, right, you go into employment. In your first job, if you really want to do well, you've got to be entrepreneurial. And it just so happens that in the tech industry and in startups, highly valued. So I brought in someone about 6 months ago. I doesn't have real impression. He started an e-commerce startup. Um, did it for about a year. I happen to have seen the startup and bought something from it before. He started a chain with his partner. It's called Milk Cow, one of the ice cream brands. And so, you know what? I want to do something else now. I was super impressed because he's entrepreneurial. He finds new opportunities. He finds new problems to solve. So let me talk a bit about this. Like from a Grab context, right? I think this is the single most entrepreneurial job that I've ever done. And there's a few lessons that I want to share from our own learnings from the past. The first one is really think about what problem you're solving. So, and a good example is on demand. I think I talked about why taxi hailing was so big, right? So think about a lot of people are talking about stuff now like on demand something, on demand. I don't know. Okay, yeah. So okay, on demand is very hot now, or it was last year. Now it's kind of a bit whatever. But that's like, hey, I've got a business idea. You guys want to invest or not? Your life savings. It's called on demand pizza. What do you think? You press a button on the app and you get a pizza. Nice or not? Awesome. Super awesome. But guess what? It's called Pizza Hut, right? There's nothing new about it. There's no problem being solved because Pizza Hut has solved the problem. Right? The only difference is you get to press it on an app, right? That's not solving a problem. So let me show you an example. I like the examples of problem solving that have nothing to do with technology, mobile applications. So one of our most popular hotspots in Klang Valley is actually Sunway Pyramid, super popular. Um, and this is a map of Sunway Pyramid. It's like a square of doom. Basically, cars come in, they get stuck. It's just terrible. And where you see that pin there, the one that says Sunway Pyramid, that's the lion head. And that's where all the cars get stuck. It's a bit of a mess. So they told us, hey, can you solve our problem? Your cars elsewhere to the back, not to the back, like near the convention center. Ask your drivers to go there. But we told them, from our experience, when you move the cars, you tell the cars to go there. Your passengers want to be picked up at the Lion Head. Passengers don't want to go to that area. So you can try, but it's not going to work. So we said, okay, at first there were a few ideas, develop a cool feature that actually prompts people to go there, and then if they go there, they get a special discount. And then we're like, you know what, the problem might not be that complicated. So we looked at the pattern of people going to Sunway Pyramid, the people leaving Sunway Pyramid. The lighter green is people going there, drop-offs. A mismatch. But then in the evening, which is when it's the most congested, why is it the most congested? Because cars are coming in, cars are going out. But cars who go out have to come in to get the passenger to go out. So you got 2x the number of cars like pouring into your system. And we're like, why do we even need these empty cars to come in and pick people up when the full cars coming in are going to be empty when they leave, right? So we said, okay, you know what? You guys need to optimize your flow for back-to-back pickups. Okay, back-to-back pickups, really cool. Car comes in. I don't know if you guys have seen this. The car comes in, drops off a passenger, the door stays open, next guy goes in. One car instead of two, right? And then we're like, oh, okay. They're really excited, of course. So it makes sense. But how do we make that happen, right? Again, it's a pretty simple solution. If you look at the spots where people pick up, so this is the app, you key in Sunway Pyramid, you'll see a bunch of stuff that matches Sunway Pyramid. So it could be Sunway Pyramid, it could be, say, uh, celebrity fitness Sunway Pyramid, right at the bottom, range of stuff. And again, light green people coming in, dark green people leaving, right? You notice a very interesting habit that I myself do, and probably all of you do. When you go somewhere, and let's say I want to go to Sunway Pyramid, I will say, drop me off at Sunway Pyramid. So we call this a generic POI. Like it just says pyramid, you don't know where in pyramid. When you want to leave, then you'll say, okay, pick me up at KFC. So we know that your generic POI tends to be your drop off. Your specific POI tends to be your pickups. So we just have to arrange it lah. Your generic POI has to be before the specific POI so that the people dropping off can sweep up the people picking up. Kind of simple. I mean, and this is what entrepreneurs do actually. You find the simplest solution to a problem that seems kind of difficult, and the simpler the better. If it involves blockchain and augmented reality and I don't know what that even means, machine learning, then maybe you're overkilling it lah, over engineering. And then we did one final thing. The third thing we did, we looked at this box and we're like, damn, this box is congested. So we saw this lane that comes in from the outside, from the highway, a bit hidden. It used to be a taxi lane. We said, you know what? I think you guys will not know this, but this is how you go into Sunway Pyramid. You turn here, you turn here. So everyone's doing this. Here is like completely congested. So we say, you know what? Let's build something here and attract people over. Because people walk out here and they book here. People come like this. But let's just make them cross the road. Like the road is like literally from here to the wall. And then we open up this lane just for e-hailing drivers. And that is basically a lounge that looks like this. It's got booking kiosks, it's got some charging docks, it's got a TV where you can see, your car approaching. And so not everyone has moved there, but I think about half. So now a lot more cars are actually coming in this way. So I think think about solutions that are a bit outside the box as well, right? Like instead of reducing people coming in, making people coming here, you can actually make people just bypass this spot but still be in the same area. So that's the first one, really think outside the box. And I think the bigger message is that less is more, simpler the better. Okay, the second thing. What do you guys see? What do you guys see? Jam opportunity. Look at that. GT tires. Tokyo Marine. Tokyo Marine clearly saw the opportunity to sell insurance to people who are stuck in traffic. I hope no one from Tokyo Marine is here. Very smart. But so what do you guys see? Wasted time. in. Yeah. What we saw was, like, I'll tell you an anecdote first. So, you know Google, right? Google's obviously an amazing company. Um, what does Google do to most people? What does Google actually do? A lot of stuff lah, but what's their main thing? Information search, right? How much do they charge us for searching stuff? Zero. Right? I don't know if these guys are like, they saw this when they did it. I feel like they didn't. But they figured it out and they were really smart. They gave us the thing that we really wanted and didn't charge us for it because they knew they could monetize elsewhere. They monetize through ads. So I was actually I was on a panel called Innovating to Zero. And I was like, what does that even mean, innovating to zero? And then I thought, you know what, it would be really nice if everything costs zero. Because it's a theoretical ideal. In the world of transportation, there's no such thing as zero because there's fuel, there's like opportunity cost of people's time. But getting closer to zero is an ideal that we can strive towards. Right? And I thought, you know what, at this rate, with so much demand, we're gonna have to raise prices. But what if we can actually reduce that impact by advertising? So we saw all these cars and we're like, hey, everybody's looking at these boards. But actually, are they really looking at the boards? I think it's a blind spot now. The media agencies tell me that, hey, it's a blind spot. I learn new terms, right? What does a blind spot mean? Just so many and people are just so used to it that it means nothing anymore. So when I told them like, hey, we're gonna put ads on cars, again, nothing that groundbreaking. I'm not talking about digital boards on the cars. Eventually, we might do that, right? Where if you go, it goes near pavilion, the board flashes something to do with pavilion. But I'm talking about stickers. Yeah, so simple. And this is what the entrepreneurs at Grab in my business development and partnerships team worked on. They said, you know what? The visibility that a mobile billboard carries is so much greater than a stagnant billboard because no one's looking at the stagnant billboard. When a car with a freaking remount passes you, have you guys seen this one? Shuttlecock. You'll be thinking, wow, what the heck is that? And then you realize the message on it is about SEA Games. This giant cupcake is about rewards. And then you guys will have seen the Star Wars one, Magnum. And I think with this kind of stuff, that's how we are able to not have to raise prices so soon. Of course, the reality of a physical business is that it's not unlimited. Like the marginal cost of the next service provided is not as low as another like bite on like the cloud server, right? So there is still cost involved. But
This will actually help. This will actually help bring it down.
so of course, eventually we will digitize all this, make it sexy, contextualize ads with digital billboards. Um, but the starting point is not the technology. So then my final point that I want to leave you with, I touched on actually a bit earlier, was like, what is an entrepreneur? Why do you do what you do? I told you about the pizza. In case anyone's thinking of doing on-demand pizza, I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just saying that it exists, right? And my point is this: like, who do you want to be? Do you want to be Batman, billionaire playboy, got a lot of toys? Hopefully, eventually, it becomes useful, which it did, luckily for him. But he had all these toys, like why did he have those toys in his backyard for in his cave? And to me, this is like you want to be an entrepreneur because you want to create an app. You want to create an app because you want to build a startup. You want to build a startup because you want to be your own boss. This is what you do. So if for those of you who have like a lot of money, right, it's awesome, it's really awesome. But I think that it's not really the best way to approach entrepreneurship. And then you could be this dude, right, Superman, really humble. He's also good looking. Likes to help people, but it doesn't seem like he has a day job now. Yeah, so I think like the social impact is very important. Um, but I really believe in entrepreneurship that creates impact and value at the same time. If we are doing something that doesn't generate value, doesn't generate revenues, how can we continue to do what we do, right? So think of entrepreneurship as something that actually adds value and creating value for society and creating value for investors doesn't have to be separate as long as you're solving problems. And then you can be this dude lah. Iron Man is, I think, interesting because he's a bit of a billionaire playboy too, I think, right? But he was backed into a corner, right? He had no choice. He had to create. I was actually having this debate yesterday. It wasn't for nothing. His suit is not for nothing. He was about to die, right? He had a problem. So then he created something like under immense pressure. It really like solved his problem, which is life and death. So I think that's how you should approach entrepreneurship, whether it's a startup, whether you're really interested in building a startup or I think my own personal recommendation is go and get experience first. And in your first job, um, really apply this hack of like entrepreneurship. Like, how do I solve problems better than the next person? And if you can solve problems for somebody and create real value for that person, then you are really, I would say you're really an entrepreneur. Yeah, I think that's it. So, any questions you guys want to ask? I like to think we are Iron Man. So I mean, like Iron Man, right? I can't believe I'm talking about superheroes now. But Iron Iron Man is he's like he destroys stuff, reckless, but eventually he turns out that to good use. At first, he's always against the authorities, like they think that he's a nuisance, but in the end, he comes in and he solves their problem for them. So we're a bit like that, if you think about it. Yeah, and also he was really small, now he's really big. Yeah, so, okay, questions.
So basically, first you went to banking industry, right? And I believe you graduated in law as well, right? Understood economics.
Right, 2 years ago.
Right, 2 years ago. And how did you end up in Grab? And how did you? I mean, looking at you, you seem pretty young. So how did you go such a high position in such a short time period?
So I use SK2. But yeah, full disclosure, I'm in my early 30s. Um, how? I don't know, man. I solve problems. That's my character. So in my first job in banking, I actually had a very, to be honest, a very boring job. It was well paying, but it was boring. I did a lot of reports, very manual reports. So what I did was I said, you know what, this is too boring for me. So I learned some coding, but nothing fancy lah, VBA basic. Developed a bunch of macros that automated my job away. So after a while, like, I just hit a button every morning. My job's done. So what I did was, with all my spare time, I just learned all the stuff. I learned how to do Excel, learned how to do PowerPoint, learned about finance. I was a law student, but I was interested in finance. So by the time I actually applied for a real finance job in corporate finance, doing mergers and acquisitions, IPOs and all that, I actually know so much about finance already. So then I accelerated really fast there. It was during the financial crisis. So financial crisis, a lot of people got let go. Um, you usually let go the middle people. You can't let go your most senior people who have all the relationships. You can't let go your junior people because they're the ones doing all the work. So I was junior. What do I do? I step up and do what everyone else was supposed to do, the go got let go. So that was how I also developed really fast. Then I did the CFA. It took years, but I did the CFA. Then I was like, okay, finance is now a bit, I, I feel like I've learned it all already. Not really lah, but for my own interest, I think I've had enough. So I did consulting. Consulting is I would say, it's the industry that is the most aligned with problem solving. Like what you do for a living is problem solving. So that's where I learned. I was in probably 5, 6 different industries. Worked with like management, CEOs, and all that. So then, by the time I came to Grab, I already saw the problems and I already know what I wanted to do. So when I spoke to the founders, it was quite clear that I had a very, very clear plan. So I think for me, like looking back, what really changed things is I would say 2 things, right? Number one, you gotta keep improving yourself. You cannot be complacent. Like if I could have just automated stuff away um, in my first job and then just chilled, right? But you gotta keep improving yourself. And the second thing is when there's an opportunity to step up and do something that is beyond your pay grade, take it.
So how long it took from the year you graduated to the year you graduated? How many years did it take?
Almost 10 years,
10 years maybe.
yeah, 9 years maybe. Which is quite fast. It is quite fast.
What was your plan? What was your plan when you entered Grab?
Oh, like in my plan for the business,
Yeah, that you inspired the founder to.
a lot of things, a lot of things. But I guess to keep it relatively simple, um, people always talked about, like, oh, we gotta do promotions, we gotta do, uh, like, how do we think about price? If it's cheaper, we get more passengers. Um, I saw it as a cycle. There's no point being really cheap if you don't have the supply. So people have to wait really long, people can't get cars. So we focus on the drivers first, actually. We make sure that we really serve the drivers, won their hearts, make sure that they work, not just work harder, but also work the hours that the demand is the strongest. We shaped a lot of incentives to encourage them to do that. So when the supply was strong, naturally people started to adopt right away. So I only joined about a year and a half ago, not that long. Uh, and from that time till now, we grew about 7, 8 times already. And I think how we did that, the other day I was talking to some investors and they asked us like, how do you grow so fast? I said, really, we just solved the supply problem first. Most people are thinking of, oh, let's throw promotions, let's get more people using. That's not the point.
Thank you for giving such an inspirational talk. I have 2 questions. First, my friends would like to know like how much do you actually earn every month?
Me personally,
A rough number?
I can't tell you. Yeah. I would love to tell you, but I can't. Or if I tell you, I will have to kill you. So.
And the second question is like sometimes when we use a promo code in Grab and we have to pay like 0 fare, then what does the driver get at the end?
The driver gets what his fare would have been without the premium. So we top up for them. So let's say your fare was like say $8, and you apply a $5 promo code. You paid 3, right? So we will pay him 5. Yeah, it comes from Grab. And so last time when we did this, it's really weird. Like so when you deal with problems, right, your own intuition might not be right. For us, it's like drivers shouldn't care. He still gets $8. In fact, he should be really happy because now he's got more passengers. But our drivers were really unhappy with promos. Why? Because he would tell us to them every day when I take Grab, and they'll say like, "Oh, because we only get $3." I'm like, "Oh, we top up 5 for you." He said, "No, that one is later only, later." So it's like gone in his world. It's like later, I don't care. Right now, I get $3. So then we also understand like they have a cash flow problem. If you ever tried driving Grab, right, you realize that your outflows are huge and then you're not getting money. So then we started topping up their promo stuff instantly. Like in the moment your ride finishes, it's in his wallet. He cashes out, he gets it the next day. So these are the things that we do to make sure that our supply is there, like, to make sure we win our prices.
That how to Grab earn money because all the money is paid, right?
Yeah.
Calculated. Actually, you all give away 300,000.
Yeah.
How you
Yeah, we are here to serve you, lah. Let's put it that way. We are charity workers. That's why I don't get paid very much.
Okay, due to the time constraint, if there's any other question you want to ask, maybe you can talk to Mr. Sean later. Some of them, they have to go for their Friday prayer. All right, so thank you very much, Mr. Sean, for your interesting talk. I'd like to call on stage Mr. Danny Chan, Group Senior Director, Business Operation, to present a gift to Mr. Sean Goh as a token of appreciation. Thank you, Mr. Danny Chan and Mr. Sean. I'd like to take this opportunity to express my sincere appreciation to the speakers and guests for their valuable time attending the program today. Thank you all once again, and have a good day ahead.
Yeah,